Orell Füssli is celebrating its 500 years of existence, and most people know it as a bookstore, but actually Orell Füssli does much more than just selling and publishing books. It also prints the Swiss banknotes, and in March next month, the new 1,000 banknote is coming out.
Well, the banknote, the new 1,000 Swiss banknote is of course the flagship of the whole series. Technologically speaking, it's about the same as the banknotes that we have seen until now. So it's a very complex, very of a high quality, also very, very nice looking. And that's what makes it different from all the other banknotes, because it's a mix of really blending good technology with good design, and also with a customer that has a worldwide reputation of having one of the most secure banknotes and of being one of the strongholds of, let's say, stability, of financial stability, which in these days is something very special.
So the Swiss National Bank is actually one of your biggest clients, as well the biggest shareholder of Orell Füssli.
We've been collaborating with them for more than 100 years. We have printed their banknotes ever since. We have not always been the exclusive supplier of the banknote, but since many decades we are. And it's a true partnership. Many people suspect that there might be a mix of the two roles, being an owner and being a client at the same time. I cannot say this is true, because Swiss National Bank as an owner gives us the stability and gives us the traditional Swiss values that are of value for us in promoting our services to other clients. And as a customer, the Swiss National Bank is very important, because we have this flagship product. We are producing the Ferrari, or we are producing the Porsche of the industry. So everybody's admiring it, everybody's looking at it. And this opens us doors. We can go to other central banks and we can say, hey, look what we can do. Yeah? Look how technologically advanced we are. Look what makes us unique, really comparing us to other printers. So I can really say it's a very good deal that we have the Swiss National Bank as our major shareholder and as our customer.
So you mentioned it's a very good deal. The security printing division, where the printing of banknotes falls in, is actually the one that makes most revenue as well. So you also mentioned you can go to other central banks. So you're trying to get new clients for this division.
Well, absolutely. And by the way, it's nothing new. We have always printed for other countries as well. Most of it are very long-term relationships, and it's general an industry where you cannot just jump in and say, I'm going to conquer the world now and I'm going to take over all the customers from other clients. Usually you build that up over decades. So what you have to do is you have to keep those relations warm. You have to keep the people attracted to your company. That means you have to be innovative at times. You have to bring out new features, new types of products, as we have now with the 9 series. And you have to keep visiting them. It's basically just sales work. But the difference probably is that it's a long-term goal. It's a long-term approach, and that differentiates us from many other industries.
Are you not afraid that cash will disappear with new technology coming up?
No, absolutely not. And I say this with true conviction, because we have, of course, analyzed the situation. We have thought about many alternatives, many possible outcomes. I believe that all the cryptocurrencies and the pay apps and the things that are now being developed are going to become very important. To be honest with you, I think they are the bigger, let's say, they're the bigger problem for cards than they might be for cash. But as time goes on, and as we learn more about potential applications of these technologies, we also find out that some of the features cannot be duplicated by electronic means of payment. One of them being anonymity. Of course, now some people will say, he didn't understand, because you can do it in an anonymous way. The question is, do people believe that it can be truly anonymous? That's one thing. The other thing is, what do you do if there's no power? What do you do? And we should not always look at this subject only from the Western world, from the first world. There are other regions in the world as well where money plays a vital role in keeping the economy going. And that will continue to be that way for quite some time. And even in Switzerland, I think this anonymity topic is going to be more and more important, because people get more educated. They also see the drawbacks of this whole digitalization that is going on. So personal data becomes more important. And that is more in the minds of people, and I think that's why I truly believe money or cash will probably become less in terms of quantity. It will probably lose some of its importance, but it will definitely never disappear.
Well, that's interesting that you say other countries. I used to live in China a few years ago, and there cash was king. I had to pay everything in cash, but now within a few years, basically everyone wants you to pay via WeChat or an application. So I'm thinking of these countries, it can happen quite quick.
Yes, it can. I mean, China is one of the examples. It's probably the biggest, and is, as China frequently does, is moving on forward once they have identified an idea as being a good idea. Other examples are Sweden or are Nordic countries in Europe that are also pushing a cash-free society. And to be honest, we're looking at this with great interest, and we want to see where it ends, because if you take the case of Sweden, cash demand is going down very rapidly, and it already poses some problems of money supply in the country. And I know that several central banks are looking at this case from an interested point of view, because they want to know where it goes. Still, I mean, we are aware of these developments. We are also aware that states probably would like to have more control of money flow. However, I'm still convinced that this experiment that we are going through, this real life experiment, will lead us on a track that we see that money probably, or cash, physical cash, is probably something that has still a value in the future, probably because we reach the limitations of what we are seeing in China. We're seeing the limitations of what we are seeing in Sweden.
Okay. Then maybe let's talk quickly about the book business. I mean, that's the DNA of Orell Füssli, but it's one of the parts that you don't really make a lot of money. How do you want to attract people to come to your shops? I mean, you already have Starbucks, coffee shops. Sometimes I just get my coffee and then I stroll around and look, what else do you have? What else are you thinking of?
Well, that's basically not the idea that you do this, but you're not alone. So brands like Starbucks, of course, and having a cafe inside the bookshop is something relevant, something important to attract people to get in. It doesn't make a lot of money if you compare it to security printing, but if you compare it to retail, it makes a decent amount of money, I would say. How does that look in the future? First of all, I think books will not disappear so fast. I think there will be other technologies coming up, and I think they will coexist in the future. What we have to ask ourselves is, how is content in the future conveyed to a person? I mean, we have streaming services today, we have movies, we have virtual reality, we have all these things, and we still have books. We still have the traditional ways of conveying content, and I see this more as a metamorphosis or as a blend of different technologies that will come up. Personally, I'm sure that people still want to go somewhere to meet somebody to talk about something. Now, if we are smart, that can be a bookshop, or it probably is a place where you see something, where you live through an experience, or where you get content in whatever kind of form. So if you ask me, will the bookshop look the same in 50 years? Definitely not. Will it look the same in 5 years? Definitely not. I think the change is going on now, and it's hot. It's a hot issue. But I still believe, again here, I still believe that cities of big cities, the inner part of a city will still continue to be a place where people meet. And if we are smart, and if we get the signals right, we can be part of it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and happy birthday once again.
Thank you.